We want to thank you for joining the Heights Baptist podcast. On this podcast, you can listen to sermons and episodes where we discuss practical ways to grow in your faith as believers in Jesus Christ. At Heights, our mission is to love and to lead all people to a new life with Christ. My name is Lee, and I'm the lead pastor. And today, on episode 8 of our podcast, we have two very special co-hosts, two ladies that give the absolute best Christmas presents ever. Our Minister of Children, Caroline Durham, and our Preschool Director, Jackie Marcel. Thank you guys for joining the podcast today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. I had to say that about the Christmas presents because we have our staff party coming up, and I don't know if you drew my name or not. So you guys give the best Christmas presents ever. So on episode 8, we're going to talk about Christmas and just kind of struggles sometimes family have, and maybe some resources that we can help families out this Christmas. Drawing back into the meaning of Christmas, not losing the focus of what Jesus came and did for us. And so I appreciate you guys preparing those and coming on. And so let's jump in here on episode 8 as we talk about resources for Christmas for families. So thinking back to y'all's childhood, as a kid, Christmas was my favorite holiday. I would love to say for spiritual reasons, but it was the presents, and because my parents went all out on Christmas, and I'm also a December birthday, and so I didn't get a lot for my birthday. It was always, oh, you just get it at Christmas, so Christmas I kind of got double presents because birthday, Christmas, so I would love to say I was the super spiritual kid and Jesus was the reason for the season, but it was the presents under the tree.
Lee was the reason.
Right. So thinking back to your childhoods and kind of growing up, what were some things your families did, that made Christmas special or, helped you kind of focus on Jesus?
Well, I think that my favorite thing about, Christmas is my favorite holiday as well. But the reason why it was my favorite holiday is because of family. I enjoyed so much going to my grandmother's house because, first of all, we got to eat Mexican food,
Nice.
And I didn't have to prepare any of it, so I just got to go and eat. And I got to hang out with my cousins. So going there, enjoying family, and hanging out with my cousins made a huge world of influence on my life, period, because as a young adult, I wasn't really sure how many children I wanted, but in those special moments of Christmas, I definitely wanted more than just one, because I got to share that enjoyment of Christmas and with family. And during that time, we would do not just, hang out and stare at our phones or watch TV. We actually worked together.
We didn't have phones to stare at.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Those were still connected on the wall to a cord. Yeah, but keep
that would be
going.
kind of awkward staring at those phones, right? So,
Keep going, though. Yeah, sorry.
So watching TV then.
Yeah.
Because we made it meaningful. We
Right.
would always put plays together, whether it was Christmas related or not. Mm-hmm. So just that bonding time that I had with them was very special to me.
So about when you guys gathered, about how many people? Like with your cousins and everything?
So my grandparents had 4.
Okay.
So then I had 9 cousins.
Okay.
So then our family and my aunts.
Yeah. So probably upwards of 30 people easily at a gathering.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think same thing like for me, my dad had 3 brothers, 3 sisters, so a lot of cousins. So family was a big deal to us. We all lived in the same town. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of growing up something special and meaningful to us too. And yeah, I want to circle back. I mean, it was more than the presents. My family did do a few things. So we'll keep going down that road. All right, so Caroline, as one growing up who could stare at phones, what would you?
Kind of not. I don't think I had one, but I loved getting to spend time with my family too. But all of my my grandparents all lived within like 2 miles of my parents' house. Like we
Okay.
all were in the same town. And so we saw each other all year long.
Right.
But still, my favorite thing was like dependably, we would go to one grandparent's house Christmas Eve. It would be just me, my immediate family on Christmas morning. And then we'd go to the other grandparent's house for Christmas lunch or dinner. And that grandma actually had a piano, and I loved to go over and like play the piano at her house. I didn't know how to play, but
You still
they
play?
tolerated me for
Yeah.
about 20 minutes, and
Be
then
like,
that was
"That's
it.
enough."
But
Yeah.
it was just so much fun,
Sure.
special. So.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
So, growing up, like as far as church, what did you guys do at church around Christmas? Of course, like we went to church. Christmas Eve service was always a big deal. My mom always sang "O Holy Night." Like my mom's a really good singer, so she always did that every year. So that was special. That was something, kind of growing up as a kid, I look back on with good memories. So, kind of church, anything there, like special services or?
Yeah, so my family we all went to the same church growing up since we all lived near each other. And it was part of the tradition to go to the Christmas Eve service and then over to my maternal grandparents' house for Christmas Eve dinner.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
it was part of it.
Same here on Christmas Eve, doing the church thing, the candlelight, the more intimate type church service,
Right.
and then coming back because at that point my grandfather was a preacher at that time, so
Oh.
we pretty much got church at church and
Yeah.
church at home. So, yeah, it was fun.
So then Christmas Eve night, what happened in your homes? Like, what'd y'all do Christmas Eve kind of growing up?
That was so Christmas Eve
Yeah.
is the big
The church?
grandparent thing
Oh, okay. Yeah.
as well after that.
Okay.
But then we would come home. Sometimes my parents would let us open one present when we got
Ooh.
home. That was fun.
See, we never could get that done in
Yeah.
our house.
We
Yeah.
would- just
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But then that meant if we were allowed to do that, then we had to go to bed after that.
Yeah.
But then the next morning is when we got to do our immediate family
Yeah.
opening presents. So that was a lot of fun.
Okay.
And then during the day on Christmas Day, we enjoyed friends. So we had family Christmas. So
Mm-hmm. Okay.
that was always something that we looked forward to.
Cool.
And my dad's family live in Indiana, so we only had one to go to. So having the family friend time was
Mm-hmm. Right.
actually a lot of fun
That's
too, because
cool.
I considered those people
Yeah.
my cousins.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice. Any special Christmas Eve traditions beyond church?
Not particularly.
Yeah.
My grandma's house, we would sometimes open like one gift, or we might just go ahead and do the whole Christmas with that side of the family, because that's just when we would meet together.
Yeah.
We never like read the Bible story or anything like that, but I do remember like specifically this one story my grandma would read sometimes, and it was just about like this man that represents Jesus and how you should be helpful because, you're giving and like showing love to Jesus by giving and showing love to other people, by being obedient to Jesus in that when he calls you
Yeah.
to be charitable to other people. And so years later, that's stuck in my
That's stuck.
brain
That's
for
cool.
some whatever
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so
So Christmas Eve service in our house, came home, mom or dad would read Luke 2, the Christmas story. We never could open a present. I'm a little jealous. There's a little jealousy going on because we would ask and ask and ask.
well, see, there's a parallel here
never could do
between
that.
reading the story and not opening gifts, and
Right.
then not reading the story and getting to open gifts.
I'm going to call my parents now and be like, you didn't let us open a present. All right. So with Christmas and the holidays, and we've talked a lot about family and getting together with family, and yes, family can be fun and exciting, but it also can present some challenges with family, especially in 2020 now with maybe different travel restrictions or just gathering in general. But in the holiday season, kind of the month of December, what are some struggles families have that maybe you have or you've seen or you heard from others? What do you guys think?
Well, I can say I already know what conversation is going to happen at Christmas that's going to set me off. But there are always those uncomfortable conversations or just intrusions that your family who love you feel like is their business to ask about, and that's never fun. But
Yeah.
that everybody has that,
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
kind of, coming off of that a little bit, also just family relationships. If you're not on the up and up with certain people that make it a little awkward, not only for you and that person, but for the other people involved. But yeah, just praying through that and then giving it to God before that. So I think that's a really big one as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What else? What are some other ones?
Also, time. I would have to say, for me personally, it's time because I have my 4 kiddos, and now in this COVID world, I've had them for like 9 months straight now.
Right.
It is super awesome. It really is, and
Yeah.
I'm really having a hard time sending them back. But
Back to school?
back to school.
Not
I'm
just
sorry.
back somewhere else. Just want to make sure
Someone else needs
somewhere
to
our
take
listeners
them or
didn't know you're
whatever.
just farming
Yeah,
them out.
sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Back to school
Right.
because I have enjoyed this school year with them. But it also puts a lot of pressure on me time-wise because, it's December. There's a lot of things that I have to get done.
Right.
And I'm not able to get done because of the lack of time, I guess. Yeah. So.
And I think with that, I mean, I don't have kids, but there's still pressures on your time because people expect so much, or you expect so much of yourself. Like I'm competing with all these people on social media to outgive. How ridiculous is that? I've got to be the most kind, or the most generous, and that's not coming from a place of humility. So thinking through ways to be better at that.
Yeah.
I think that also kind of opened my eyes when you were saying outdoing people on ... right? Monetary as well. And it's I'm not necessarily doing it with other people, but with myself. Like last year I did this, so this year I'm going to have to do this.
It has to be bigger. It has to be better.
Yes. And it's funny because I'm having the struggle with myself. And I had my 14-year-old tell me a couple of days ago, Mommy, just do 3 gifts for us, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? Like, for real? And she says, yes. And so when we were going through kind of gifts for the other kids, she goes, okay, well, that person's done. And I was like, oh, no, but I just started.
Right.
So it's really hard.
Yeah.
And then, after the fact, you look at the amount that you actually spent, and it's, what was I thinking?
Right.
I knew that in the beginning, but I just kept going.
Yeah. So did she pull the other 3 together and come up with that?
I think
or
she's
does
making
she
that
just make
decision on
that a
her
group
own there.
decision? She
on
just
her
decided
own.
that. So you're going to slip her an extra one.
She
Like,
knows
here
how to
you
work
go.
it.
There you go. That was, but that is a real struggle.
It really is.
Because sometimes on a very tight budget, we've always been on a very tight budget as, primarily a 1-income family. You have a budget in mind, but then you want to buy your kids everything.
Yeah.
And so that's a real struggle, and the time commitments around, and I was even thinking about it this year, this isn't a typical Christmas season with all of the school plays and different things that always go on, but there's still a lot going on in a COVID world, so then what are some resources, kind of ways we can kind of help families kind of, get that focus back on Christ and him not get lost in all the shuffle and stress and things in the holidays.
So one that I have already experienced this year, which was really neat, was the Operation Christmas Child. I've done little things before, but doing it this year meant so much more than it had before. And I think it's because I had the time with my kids that I have had the last several months. But their excitement and joy on filling so many boxes with things that they loved. And their main point was, I wish I could be in that country and watch this child open that gift so I can see their joy.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
they're being God's hands and feet. So Christ is being honored in the servitude of the Operation Christmas Child. So I thought that was really neat.
Yeah.
And that's a good resource that you can go to and, find out what, needs to be done and who is benefited by it.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Good.
And I think with that, it's a mentality shift away from I need this for me, but I can give and I'm going to get more joy in thinking about the joy that someone else is going to
That's probably why
receive.
she said, that she only needed 3 because
Right.
she was able to give
Yeah.
so much to
Yeah.
others.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's incredible. But that
Yeah.
starts with, changing the way that you talk to yourself and what you do.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
for sure.
I think another thing is to kind of go into the season with a plan, right? Like you were saying, your daughter told you, we're just going to do 3 gifts per person. You need to decide what is appropriate for you to do this season, what you can do, what you're wanting to do. And so maybe that looks like writing down how much money you're willing or have set aside to spend for Christmas, and then writing down your priorities and who you want to give gifts to. And maybe your yoga instructor doesn't need a Starbucks gift card this season. And that way you can give your kids something meaningful or an experience. So I think kind of telling yourself where your limit is helps you that later on the week of Christmas, you're not stressed about pushing the limits and pushing your boundaries of what you can do, because you've already made that decision. So you don't have to second guess yourself there.
Yeah. Good. So what are so thinking about the Christmas story, what are some good maybe resources, books, YouTube channels that do a good job of maybe teaching the story of Christmas if parents are looking for kind of some resources in that way?
Yeah, I love Saddleback Kids is a YouTube channel. They have they do a great job at producing videos that are animated, and you can tell that they're very like curated for kids. Especially their Christmas video does a really good job of explaining the birth of Jesus without using words like virginity. And so while it's important to tell the story in a really truthful and honest way, kids don't need to necessarily dive into all the grown-up words that are incorporated in that story. And so
Different season for that talk.
different
Yes.
different
Yeah.
season of life for that. So if you're looking for a way to just show your kids something,
Okay.
maybe take the pressure off of yourself, or if you want to watch the video as a grown-up yourself
Yeah.
and learn from the video how they talk around that point, how they still articulate it, and then use that in storytelling to your kids, that's definitely a great one.
So Saddleback Kids.
Saddleback Kids,
It's
yeah.
a YouTube channel.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
good.
they've got tons of Bible stories, but especially they have a Christmas one about Mary and Joseph, and then they have another Christmas one about the shepherds.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Good.
it's really cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
A book resource that I have really enjoyed is The Legends of Christmas Treasury, Inspirational Stories of Faith and Giving. So it's basically 3 stories in one. Giving the legend of the Christmas cookie, and the legend of St. Nicholas, and also the candy cane. Just having something tangible to hold when you're speaking to your kids and giving them, it's not just about Santa Claus. If you're ready at that point to tell them where kind of Santa Claus came from, this was kind of a struggle for me to kind of talk through that with my kiddos, but this is a really good book to kind of show the generosity, what that comes along with Christmas, and
Yeah.
message.
And you also brought a prop.
I
Do you want to
did
go
bring
over
a
your prop?
I sure would.
You're the first guest on the podcast to bring a prop. You now you have like raised the so Matt and I next episode we're going to need props,
Oh,
charts and
goodness.
graphs.
That's
So what did you
awesome.
bring this show to the
So,
listeners?
This here is an advent calendar, and I have gone through several different types of advent calendars with my kiddos, and basically just, counts down until Christmas. And there's so many resources online that you can fill these boxes with. And one that Caroline came up with was, verses going through Luke.
Oh, cool.
Each one of the verses counting down to Christmas. You have the those to put in here to kind of go through, and that keeps them engaged daily on what this whole season is all about. So this is a nice big one, but they have like smaller pieces of paper or
Sure.
ones
Yeah,
that
there's
you
a lot out there.
mark off,
Yeah.
and there's all kinds of different kind of Advent things that you can do with your kiddos.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's good. And I grew up, we had Advent calendars growing up. So, yeah. All right. Yeah. Anything else, Caroline? Any
That's
other
really cool.
resources? Or?
Yeah, one thing that came to mind is that. So for me, I don't have kids, and so I don't have to walk into Christmas preparing for giving them gifts or teaching the Bible story to them. And so my kind of responsibilities walking into Christmas is more with my parents, who are adults. And so sometimes preparing for Christmas for me looks like walking into it with like this mindset that I'm not going to get upset or not be angry when I leave at Christmas dinner, no matter what question somebody asks me. And I try to think and pray about my statements before I walk into that. So what am I going to say when someone asks me about X, Y, and Z?
Sure.
What's something honest but concise, but kind of draws the boundary beforehand. And so even if that just looks like journaling and praying over that beforehand, kind of getting your mind on Jesus over the frustrations before you walk into Christmas Eve or Christmas dinner, that can be really helpful.
No, and I think that's good to prepare your mind, your heart to be around others. And we're starting a series here December 13th called Awkward Family Christmas. And because, the first Christmas was kind of awkward too. When you get into the story of Mary and Joseph and a pregnancy that wasn't planned. And I mean, like you dive into that and there's some awkwardness even in the first Christmas story, just like there's awkwardness now. And so I think those are great resources. We'll drop those into the link of the YouTube page here so you can, find those resources that Jackie and Caroline gave you. And so I appreciate y'all joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And so we appreciate you listening and watching today. And again, on our podcast, you can find many different resources, previous sermons, kid messages, vacation Bible school, youth messages. Every Wednesday, we drop a new podcast here dealing with some topic of faith and culture. If you're in our area, we'd love to have you live in person with us on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. or 10:30 a.m. If you're going to be watching from home, or maybe you're watching from a different area and can't get here in person, we also live stream those services every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. here on our Heights YouTube page, our Facebook page. You can listen to those messages anytime on your favorite podcast app. So we wish you a Merry Christmas. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season, and God bless.